The alien girl never expected him to win. Zara stood at the edge of the combat arena, her blue skin gleaming under the harsh lights of the Galactic Championship dome. Her forearms flexed with practiced ease as she watched the human walk into the ring. He looked so small, so fragile compared to her 7-foot frame. The human called himself Jake. He had brown hair and quiet eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. Zara had fought hundreds of warriors from dozens of species. None of them had been human. She had heard stories about these strange creatures from the third planet of a yellow star. They were supposed to be weak and slow. The crowd of alien spectators roared as the announcer spoke through the translation device. Beings from across the galaxy had come to watch the final match of the tournament. Zara was the champion. She had won 47 fights without losing once. The betting stations showed odds of 1,000 to 1 against the human. Zara looked at Jake and felt something she had never experienced before. It was not fear because she knew no fear. It was curiosity. Why would such a weak creature challenge her? The prize for winning was the right to speak for your species in the Galactic Council. Earth wanted a voice among the stars. The fight began with the sound of a deep horn. Zara moved forward with the speed that had made her famous. Her lower arms reached for Jake while her upper arms prepared to strike. She expected him to dodge or try to run. Instead, he stepped toward her. His movement was strange. It seemed random at first, but then Zara realized he was studying her pattern. Every fighter had a pattern. Even she had one, though no one had ever lived long enough to figure it out. Jake moved like water, flowing around her attacks instead of fighting against them. When Zara threw a punch with enough force to break steel, Jake was not where the punch landed. He had shifted just enough to let it pass by his head. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the arena. He smiled. The crowd grew quiet. They had never seen anyone smile while fighting Zara. She increased her speed, using all 4 arms in a deadly dance that had destroyed her last 10 opponents in less than 30 seconds. Jake moved faster than she had expected. He was not as strong as her, but he was learning her timing. Minutes passed. Zara began to feel something new. Her muscles were getting tired. She had never fought anyone who could avoid her attacks for this long. Jake was not just surviving. He was making her work harder than she ever had before. Then Jake did something that changed everything. He stopped running. He stood still and waited for her next attack. Zara thought he had given up. She put all her strength into one final strike that would end the fight. Jake caught her arm. The arena fell silent. No one had ever caught one of Zara's punches. Her arm, which could crush metal, was held in place by this small human. Jake looked into her eyes and she saw something there that made her heart race. He was not afraid. He was calculating. In one smooth motion, Jake used her own strength against her. He twisted her arm and used her forward momentum to throw her across the ring. Zara hit the far wall with a sound like thunder. She had never been thrown before. She had never even been moved against her will. She stood up slowly, her blue skin now darker with effort. Jake stood in the center of the ring, still smiling. He was not even breathing hard. Zara realized that he had been holding back. Everything he had done so far was just preparation. The second part of their fight was different. Zara fought with desperation while Jake fought with purpose. He had spent the first half learning everything about her. Now he showed her what humans could do when they understood their enemy. Every attack Zara made was turned against her. Every strength she showed became a weakness Jake could use. When she tried to grab him, he made her grab empty air and lose her balance. When she tried to corner him, he used the walls to change direction in ways that seemed to break the laws of physics. The crowd began to cheer for Jake. Zara could not believe what she was hearing. These aliens who had come to watch her destroy another challenger were now hoping she would lose. She had never heard anyone cheer against her before. Jake moved closer to her. She threw everything she had at him, all 4 arms working together in patterns that had taken her years to master. He moved through her attacks like they were standing still. Then he was beside her, inside her guard, where her long arms could not reach him effectively. What happened next lasted only 3 seconds, but Zara would remember it for the rest of her life. Jake grabbed her in a way that used her own weight against her. He lifted her off the ground using leverage instead of strength. Then he put her down gently but firmly on her back. She tried to get up but found that she could not. Jake had done something to her that did not hurt, but made it impossible for her to move. She was not injured, but she was completely helpless. The referee began to count. At the count of 8, Jake released her. Zara could move again, but she did not get up. She lay there looking at the ceiling of the arena, trying to understand what had happened to her. The human who was supposed to be weak had defeated her without causing her any real harm. Jake walked over to her and offered his hand. Zara looked at it for a long moment, then took it. He helped her stand up, and the crowd roared louder than she had ever heard them roar before. They were cheering for both fighters now. The announcer declared Jake the winner. Earth would have its voice in the Galactic Council. But Zara was not thinking about politics. She was thinking about the human who had just taught her that strength was not always about size or power. After the ceremony, Zara found Jake in the preparation area. He was sitting quietly, cleaning a small cut on his hand. She approached him slowly, her forearms held in a position that showed respect among her people. Jake looked up at her and smiled the same smile he had worn during their fight. Zara sat down across from him. She wanted to understand how he had beaten her. More than that, she wanted to understand why he had helped her up afterward. Jake began to talk and Zara listened. He told her about humans and how they fought. He explained that humans did not win by being the strongest or the fastest. They won by being adaptable. They won by learning and changing and never giving up. He told her about human history, about how they had fought wars and survived disasters and explored dangerous places. He told her that every human carried the knowledge of all the humans who had come before them. When a human fought, they were never fighting alone. Zara asked him why he had helped her stand up after defeating her. Jake said that on his world, warriors respected each other. The goal was not to destroy an enemy, but to test each other and become stronger. He said that Zara was the greatest fighter he had ever faced, and he was honored to have fought her. For the first time in her life, Zara understood what it meant to have respect for another warrior. She had always fought to prove she was superior. Jake had fought to learn and to push himself beyond his limits. In defeating her, he had also elevated her. They talked until the arena lights dimmed. Zara learned that humans were not weak at all. They were something much more dangerous than strong. They were clever, adaptable, and absolutely refusing to give up. They turned every disadvantage into an advantage and every defeat into a lesson. When they finally parted ways, Zara knew her life had changed. She would return to her homeworld as a defeated champion. But she would also return as someone who had learned the most important lesson of her life. Strength alone was not enough. The greatest warriors were those who could grow and change and find new ways to overcome any challenge. Jake boarded his ship to return to Earth, carrying with him the right to speak for his species among the stars. But he also carried something else. He had shown the galaxy that humans belonged there not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they never stopped learning and never stopped trying. Zara watched his ship disappear into the stars and smiled. She had expected to win easily against a weak human challenger. Instead, she had discovered that the most dangerous opponents were not always the ones who looked the most powerful. Sometimes they were the ones who understood that true strength came from the mind and the will to never surrender. The arena was empty now, but the legend of the fight between Zara and Jake would spread across the galaxy. Other species would hear the story of how a small human had defeated the greatest warrior in known space, not through brute force, but through intelligence, adaptability, and the uniquely human refusal to accept defeat. And in the years that followed, when other species looked at humans, they would remember that lesson. They would remember that humans were not to be underestimated, not because of their physical power, but because of something far more dangerous. They possessed the ability to overcome any challenge through determination, learning, and an unbreakable spirit that turned every setback into a setup for an even greater victory.